All right, good evening, everyone. I'm not even gonna lie, waiting for my doctor, and still not here. So I'm not gonna lie, not really prepared for a plan B, but the show must go on. The show must go on. So we had something quite interesting lined up, but I haven't seen my doctor. You know how it is with them, probably out somewhere saving lives. So what do we do? So I just thought to myself, it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to just talk in and around different health topics, things that you might want to know. Even though I'm not a doctor, well, at least we could talk about some home remedies and other things that can work for us. Okay, so pardon me if especially if you are an ardent listener of this program, that I repeat some of the things that I've said before. But then health news is something that you can never get enough of. So I'm just going to go right ahead and start to talk about some things. I'll open up the phone lines not too long from now and get a feel of what you also think about, what health remedies have you tried at home that have worked for you, and other things that you might want to know. I will let you know. I'm just going to go ahead and start with something that is so common. And the first one I would like to talk about is the use of lemon or lime, those citrus fruits, the ones in that particular group, and what they can do, how they can help you to kill body odor, and in some cases even mouth odor, depending on what the cause of that mouth odor, or halitosis as it is known, is. If it is due to dirt on your tongue, then yes, a little bit of lime or a little bit of lemon water might be able to help you, especially when you're brushing. But before we come to the mouth, let's talk about the body. Now, there are a lot of people, especially in our climes, they talk about sanyin kashi. Now, sanyin kashi, is it sanyin kashi? No, warin kashi. It's not sanyin kashi, I beg your pardon. I think it's warin kashi. There are some people who they say just have this very strong body odor when they go into a room and the place is closed, not well ventilated. People who have sensitive sense of smell would go in there and choke or feel like throwing up. Anyway, so it's been found that people like that, if you'd only take time out to shave your armpits and rub, not immediately, please, not immediately, because that's going to burn the armpit. Shave your armpit, give some days for it to rest, and then when you have finished having your bath, you could just use a little bit of lemon or lime water to rub the insides of your arms and let it dry. Like, lift your hands up and let it dry. So this should let you know that it's not much that you would put under your armpit. It actually helps in killing or dousing that very strong musky odor that might come from you, especially when you've been out and about in our type of climate. The weather here is really, really, or usually hot and humid. Now that's hot and moist, or hot and dry. Bottom line is that the underlying word there is hot. We have a very hot weather here. So definitely people would sweat. And one of the ways in which you could douse the smell of that sweat would be to ensure that you shave. A lot of times we don't think much about the hair under our armpits and the kind of effects that it could have on us. Honestly, the hair underneath there, you'd be shocked. Just shave it down. I mean, you could use a cream, hair removal cream, or you could also use your shaving stick. And either one, shave it, use, like I said, please don't go and say Jackie said use it immediately. Don't use it immediately. use it a few days, give your skin under your armpit some hours to rest, and at least 24 hours a day before you rub anything there, because when you shave it becomes very tender, very raw. You don't want to, in fact you shouldn't even use antiperspirant when you shave. Immediately after you shave, it's very wrong, because it will also burn the skin under there. So don't use anything, whether it's antiperspirant, or you don't want to go that way, or you don't have enough money to buy antiperspirant. It doesn't matter. Just try this home remedy. Use lemon or lime water, undiluted, just a little. You just put your fingertips in the juice and just rub it on your armpits, and then let it dry. Raise your hands up, let it dry, and then try that out. And then now let's quickly move to our mouths, especially for those who have serious mouth odor. Now, if anyone who loves you, because I think people who take time out to tell you that, you really need to do something about your mouth, or if anybody has ever spoken to you about that, it's because they love you. A lot of people will snigger behind you. They would laugh and make side comments and all of that. But it takes someone who really cares about you to tell you that you need to watch what you eat or something. They might come and tell you in different ways, because people have different ways of approaching a matter. But bottom line is, if it is about your mouth, you need to please go near a mirror and look in the mirror, stick out your tongue and see how your tongue looks. Now, while it's only babies that have really pink, clean looking tongues, okay, even when they finish drinking milk, there's white on it. It isn't, we shouldn't have pink looking tongues. Like, some people have this mistaken idea that the tongue should look very smooth, very pink, very, just all round, one whole color, looking very nice. Now, that's very, very far from what it is for all of us. It should have white, like the tops. You should be able to see your taste buds, those tiny, tiny things that actually taste food for you. When you put food in your mouth, without those tiny buds, you wouldn't feel them. So you should be able to identify that your taste buds are showing. However, if you stick out your tongue and what you can see looks more like a carpet, a smooth carpet, there's a problem. And honestly, I prefer that you go and see a doctor, because sometimes it's not even about brushing or not brushing well. Sometimes it's a very, very huge problem. Sometimes it is a pointer to something even more serious. Not to frighten anyone, but these are signs that your tongue might want to show you. So you need to go and see a doctor. And if you're even someone who hasn't washed their tongue ever before, probably you've never had this conversation, you didn't know, you just thought, oh, let me just wash my teeth, that's all. You've never known that you're supposed to wash your tongue too. Then you should go and see a doctor first before you even wash that tongue, because there is the likelihood that when you wash it, you are going to wound yourself or cause for that tongue to become raw, and it's not going to be funny. So you just don't jump and go and start washing your tongue with vigorous action when you've never washed your tongue before. It's something that you need to see a doctor for. It's very important. I know it sounds funny, but take it seriously. Like I said, we'll open up the phone lines soon, but I think I've dwelt on this enough. Let's move on to something else that a lot of us abuse. And, informally, I keep hearing about kidney failure. We're having a lot of that now. And I cannot help but think that is not unrelated to the way in which we abuse drugs, especially over the counter drugs. And when we are talking about over the counter drugs too, especially the likes of paracetamol, it's very important that we understand that you cannot take paracetamol back to back. Sometimes we're ill, you take paracetamol as tablets, and then you go and take a cough syrup. Say, for instance, you're having a cough and a cold, and then you go and take it without reading the instructions or reading even the active ingredients of that medicine. It's wrong, and these things keep going to the kidneys and storing residue in those places. Of course, I know that all of us know, or at least most of us know, that the kidney is like the filter of the body, the liquid filter of the body. And as long as you put that thing in your mouth, it must pass through the kidneys. Now, even for those, and this we are begging all the people who cook for us, there are many people who have taken to cooking bomo, kanda, or tough meat with paracetamol. As a matter of fact, that one was a new one I heard some time back, where I heard that you just drop a few tablets of paracetamol in food, and that's a quick, surefire way of softening whatever that thing is, whether it's the bomo or the meat. And of course, I'm talking about cowhide. That is, if there's anyone out there that doesn't know what bomo or kanda means. It is very dangerous. And I know sometimes that it's hard to see it. But what goes around comes around. If you're cooking this thing for people and you're saying, oh, you're looking at the bottom line. It's your profit that matters. You might think that, my kids don't eat this. My husband doesn't eat this. But at the end of the day, somehow it's going to come back. There is nothing that doesn't have a way of coming back, good or bad. So please, for those who still cook meat with paracetamol, especially those people who handle our restaurants, please stop it. Please. It's very important that we stop this. It's not good. There's a lot of kidney failure issues going round and round. And it's not far from all these things. Please read the instructions on drugs. If you cannot read, ensure that you give it to someone who can read, even when you have been. And this is why we shouldn't take oral prescriptions. You go to the chemist and you're like, I go take this one. And then the person just says to you, okay, this one are 3 times a day, or sometimes even writes it for you. And you don't even read the literature. It's better that you see a doctor. Let the doctor be the one to say, take it 3 times a day. Because the truth is that there are people who a doctor might tell, take this drug 3 times a day. Others, he will say, take it once. Others, he will say, take it twice. Okay? So you need to be very ensure that your line of treatment whenever you're ill is targeted. You're very concise about it so that you can get through that illness quickly and be done with it. But when we just go and say, oh, because the last time it was 3 times a day and this time around, we need to be careful. Just paracetamol is really dangerous. Very, very. So please be very careful the way you take paracetamol. There are some of us, before we have a headache, you will say, give me paracetamol there. Instead of you to think about drinking water, lying down, or just distressing. When I say not distress, as in being stress, I mean de-stress, like remove the stress from you. Sometimes all you need when you have a headache is to drink water. There are some people who, for them, their body warns them that they're dehydrated by giving them a headache. And for some people, they feel tired. So sometimes it's just about drinking water. Some other times is about you just lying down, finding a dark, cool place to lie down, close your eyes, and try to not think about all the problems of the world. You're still here, and because you're still here, any good thing can still happen. So so that I don't overflog this issue, paracetamol, honestly, very dangerous. Just remember that. All right, so before we go on a commercial break, allow me to quickly talk about what is topical right now, talking about the COVID, the pandemic, the infection. Now, a lot of people are saying that people who took the vaccines are still wearing masks, and that just goes to show you that it's all a scam. COVID is not real. I'm telling you that there is an infection called COVID, and what's worse, you see the variant that is out right now. We need to be very careful. What am I saying? I'm not even talking about just going out there to get your vaccines. I'm saying whether you've taken your vaccination or not, still put on your mask. Because if you follow the news and you see what's happening, even in Wuhan, in China, people are dying once again. And these are people who took the Chinese vaccine, the one against COVID-19. They are dying once again because why? The variant, it mutated. And this vaccine was targeted at a certain, the coronavirus as it was at that time before it mutated. And if you remember, it mutated in India and now it's all over the world. As a matter of fact, and this has not been verified, but I did get a message yesterday that there were some very prominent people who died in the southwest of Nigeria yesterday in the academic circles. They died yesterday because of the Delta variant. They call it the Delta variant. It's still COVID-19, but it's called the Delta variant. So yes, let's all wear our masks. We've been wearing this mask for 1 year plus. Another 6 months or another 1 year will not kill us. Or if you don't really like wearing masks, try your best to stay at home. Don't be that person who will be with other people. It's very easy to scoff at COVID-19 because God has been too good to Africa. God has been too good to us concerning this pandemic. What people in other climes have seen, what their eyes have seen, where loved ones are dropping like flies, where funeral pyres where they burn dead bodies are all over the place, like ridges on a farm. People like that, you tell them that COVID-19 is not real, they'll want to jump at your throat and strangle you. So God has been really good to Africa, particularly Nigeria, I think, because we largely, first, second wave, have come off largely unscathed. But that does not mean that we should tempt fate. So I see there are establishments that are trying, that are still putting hand washing devices out there for us. There are a lot of them who are still sticking to no mask, no entry. There are quite a number of them in Kaduna who still insist that before you go in, you wash your hands. However, there are even more. For every one that is still sticking to the COVID protocol in Kaduna State, there are like 5 more that are not. And so here is hoping that our task force take a look at how they can do something about this. There are a lot of people who are not, they're not complying, and this isn't nice. So let's hope that they do. Now, while I was talking just now, the doctor just walked in. So let's get him comfortable and we'll see what we can do with the rest of the minutes that we have. Do stay with us. You're listening to Your Health 360. All right, thank you for staying with us. Still on your Health 360, and this time around, my doctor is here. I told you that he was probably somewhere saving lives. Had an emergency at the Barodico Teaching Hospital, but he was still able to make it here. Dr. Godwin Abraka, you're welcome. It is a pleasure to have you with us in the studio this evening.
Thank you very much.
Now, while you were not here, we were talking about, paracetamol and the danger that it poses for a lot of people. I would just like for you to quickly talk about why is paracetamol so dangerous? A lot of us think that it's child's play because, it's over the counter. We're allowed to access it anyhow. And so every little thing, I have a pain in my hip, give me paracetamol. It's headache, give me paracetamol. My eye is paining me, give me paracetamol. And yet here we have a lot of cases of kidney failure up and down these days. So why is paracetamol? I know it's not the only reason, but why is paracetamol so dangerous, if it is?
Yeah, paracetamol, when taken more than required, is dangerous. Obviously, because it has a very standard required daily dose, and because most people do take it without prescription or unguided, you can have the toxicity. It can be too much in your body, and it can give you the consequential kidney injuries, liver diseases, or it can actually potentiate an existing liver disease. Or I could explain, I could add some little explanation to how paracetamol really works. It's a drug that is classified as an opiate.
It's an opiate?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it can help relieve pains and analgesics, and also help in dilatations of the veins, especially in the brain, where you can also have good blood flow to reach the brain cells. So most of the time, it can help with the pain centers. That's where pain is interpreted in the brain. So most people, when they take that, they feel very relief and they want to take more. It has a half-life, with what is called bioavailability. There's an expected time that the threshold or the quantity of this drug should be reducing, and you're expected to top it up. And there are instances where people take it too much that it goes beyond that, and they keep adding more. So when you have that more than is required, they bind to proteins in your body, and those proteins are what circulates drugs all around. And most of these drugs, especially paracetamol, when you take it, it passes through the liver. What happens in that liver is called bypass metabolism. The liver breaks it into the active form that is required to relieve your pain. So imagine a liver that is diseased, or a liver that is responsible for producing other proteins. Now it's engaged into actually metabolizing paracetamol. And a lot of times you have a lot of it in your circulation. Now the toxic level is breached, and then you have the repercussion. Repercussion in such a way that paracetamol is supposed to be excreted in the kidneys. Now imagine you have those as heavy molecules binded to those proteins. Now the kidneys cannot be able to filter enough, let alone the other electrolytes that the kidney is supposed to work on by reducing their load in the kidney, in the blood system. So realize that those paracetamol actually block the filters, the glomerular, some will call the glomerular, blocks them, and then the action of the kidney is impaired. It doesn't excrete the paracetamol all. It doesn't excrete other unwanted toxins. You realize that you could also have those toxins recirculating in the body, and the kidney may fail. The liver itself, remember, is doing the work of the bypass metabolism. So being engaged with that, other proteins are not produced, and the liver could subsequently go in. So paracetamol actually is very dangerous to the liver itself, not just the kidney, to the liver itself, because that's the first site of action where the paracetamol is broken to its active form. What we take is not the active form. It has to be activated in the liver. So during that, imagine the high quantity you take. It's very toxic, and it can be poisonous. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, it can be poisonous because drugs are meant to be taken at a certain concentration at different time interval where we expect the bioavailability to be going down. You top it up. But when you take more than required per day, especially 4 grams, 4 grams is the maximum. When you take more than 4 grams, 2 tablets makes 1 gram, another 2 tablets make another 1 gram. So if you take up to more than 8 tablets per day, you have breached the maximum required per day. And you're actually exposed to the toxicity of paracetamol and even prone to these kidney failures and the liver diseases. So I think you need to be cautioned on when and how to take paracetamol. If pain is so severe, sometimes it's better you combine different classes of analgesics in order to reduce exceeding the required daily dose of one. As such, your pain could be managed. I think it's best to see the doctor when your pain cannot be managed by 1 or 2 doses of paracetamol. Just see the doctor.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the best advice I could actually put across to our listeners.
Paracetamol is dangerous. You've heard it from Dr. Godwin. No, it is dangerous. Handle it with extreme caution. Be very careful about how you ingest paracetamol. It's done more damage than we care to know. Even for children, we just give it to them anyhow. Whether, Dr. Godwin, this toxicity that you're talking about, this also is relevant for the syrup, right? Because it's a syrup we give children.
Yes.
Can this toxicity also happen if you give children paracetamol syrup too much?
Yes, for children, we always give them per kg. Children varies from the time of birth to when they grow into adulthood. Some children could be 1 year, but they have a very good weight. Some could be 1 year, but very small for their age. So we always gauge them we give them their paracetamol per kg, and it also must not exceed the 4 doses per day. When we say QDS 6 hourly, TDS is 8 hourly, BD is 12 hourly, and then once daily would be so. But you must not exceed the 4 doses per kg. Yeah, so that should also be monitored. And most of the drugs for children, there is a prescribed strength per meal. You will see paracetamol will be 100 milligram in 5 ml. Will be 150 milligram in 5 ml. So when you're taking such medication, you should be able to read the label and know what is required for the child. And for children, we always prefer that they see the pediatrician, because they need to check the weight and prescribe appropriate for that child. The paracetamol that is appropriate for that child. We will expose the child for it and begin to have kidney disease right from
young age.
And most of them, life expectancy is really shortened. So it's good for children, please don't take at home, even though it's the most abused by parents. It's most abused by parents.
Honestly.
So for children, it's better you see the pediatrician. And there are drugs that are alternatives than giving only paracetamol. If you take paracetamol for more than 2-3 days and the child's fever is not going down, please see the doctor. Most of the time, what makes us to take paracetamol is to relieve pain, but we don't always care about what causes the pain. If what causes the pain is not taken care of, you could take painkillers for the rest of your life because that is still there, or except nature intervenes by recovery. But you need to stress, why are you having this pain? Why are you having this headache? Or why are you having this fever? And do you need to take the paracetamol? And when you take for 1-2 days, you're not recovering, you need to find out the cause of your pain. Managing the cause is better than managing the symptom. The symptom is the pain, but what causes the pain is what we need to find out. And you need someone to examine you, discuss with you, do some investigation, and we could arrive at the baseline where we could find the cause and treat it. You may take paracetamol for 1 or 2 days and it's over because the cause have been found. That can be taken concurrently with the management of the cause of that pain. I think that will shorten your exposure to a long time paracetamol intake. It's far better.
All right. There was something you touched on, Doc. 2 things I want to for you to quickly touch on before we open up the phone lines.
Yes,
and you mentioned it. One of them was you were saying something TDS, BD, like that. A lot of us hear it. We know it's BD is twice a day. We know TDS is 3 times a day. But we also know that there's supposed to be a number of hours between it. You mentioned it in passing. Could you clear this up? When the doctor tells us this, take it twice a day, how many hours should be ideally within those doses?
Okay. When the doctor said twice a day, it's 12 hours apart from each dose. If you start at 8, count 12 hours from the hour of 8 when you've taken your drug. That's the next time you're take the next dose. When the doctor says TDS, it means 3 times a day, 8 hours apart from each dose. So you count 8 hours from the present time you've taken your drug and continue the same way every 8 hours. That's TDS. When you hear QDS, it's 4 times a day, every 6 hours of the day. And all this, the summary of each of those TDS, QDS, or BD will actually give you the 24 hours per day. So we don't count day and night in the hospital. No, we count hours. You could take your drug at 10 p.m. today. You have to count the 12 hours to get the next BD dose. It's not because it's sunset today. When it's sunrise, you may just realize that it's just 6 hours apart. When you took it at 11 and by 5 or 6 a.m. you are awake, you want to take the next dose, it's just 6 hours apart. So it's actually hours based and just to make the 24 hours.
So what about if I take, especially these anti-malaria drugs, you take it around 6 and they say 8 hours, take the next dose in 8 hours. If you count 8 hours from 6 p.m., that's like 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
So you're saying we should set an alarm and wake up at that time and take it?
There's a reason why it is prescribed at 0 hour, 8 or 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually told you about the drug threshold that we call bioavailability. Let me just give a literal example of what happens in our homes. Just imagine having a cup and a small hole below it, and that hole, you expect water to be dripping to keep a particular thing wet. If you put a full cup and give it 2 hours, it will keep dripping until it finishes. So we're expecting at 2 hours it has dripped off and emptied the cup. It's needed to be replaced. So imagine after 30 minutes you top up another one, it will overflow the cup. Imagine you wait, after 2 hours you added 4 extra hours, you come and find the cup empty, and that thing you want to keep wet is already dry.
Right.
It's like you're starting all over. So every drug has a bioavailability. It has an expected time that the therapeutic dose is reducing, so you need to take it there. So therapeutic dose is another term entirely. So we have to follow that, because each of those drugs have their own time and expectation. If that time reaches and you need to top it up, you actually have to keep to it. That's why most of the time when you have to take your drug based on timing, especially drugs that the effect is time dependent, we admit you, because we have people who are trained to give everybody his drug according to his timing. When they give you your drug, the time is recorded, and when person is changing a shift, he tell, okay, so person have been given his drug at 10 p.m. next dose, the other person taking the shift will calculate the next dose because it's prescribed TDS. So that's how it's done. Sometimes it may not be because you're critically ill, but those timings need to be followed. And when you get the required medication, you can be sent home. Those you can take, that the therapeutic those can be achieved with a variation of maybe 1 or 2 hours. We can allow you to take that because it won't still bother much. But those which actually need accuracy to arrive at the desired effect, you may need to be admitted, because that has to be done professionally.
Now we know why sometimes we take malaria drugs and they don't work, because the timings. I'll tell you, Doc, that sometimes I've taken, like, I take the drug at a time when the time is, the next hour is up to take it, is maybe in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. and all of that. But when I realized this bioavailability thing that you talked about, I started waiting. Even if I'm feeling ill, I wait until I know that the hour will expire at a time when I'm already awake. We need to take these things seriously. So quickly, doctor, before we open up the phone lines, the other thing I wanted to ask you, many of us, we want, the doctor prescribes drugs, you go to the pharmacy and you buy your drug. Then you get there, they say buy the 500 milligram one. And then we get there and we find that the chemist or the pharmacist has only the 200 milligram. So, or the 250 milligram, depends. And then on our own, or many times, the pharmacist will say, just take 2. If you take 2 of this, it actually will suffice for the 500 milligrams you were supposed to take. Or sometimes you go and it's the 500 milligram and it's a child. You're supposed to give that child 250. And so we buy, because that one is not available, we now buy the 500 milligram and start breaking the tablets into half to give that child. Are these correct ways of administering medicine?
This for children is always good. You look for the prescribed dose. Prescribed dose is better. Reason being, when you're dividing that drug, you may not divide it equally. You may give him more than required for this dose and give him less because you use the same half you left behind to give subsequently. And then sometimes the method of preservation after you break that drug into two is another problem. And for most of those drugs that you can actually split, if you look at the nature of the tablet, most of them you realize that they have a line splitting them. Those tablets are splitted, they have coated lines. You can identify those tablets by a line cutting them into two equal pieces or into four. Those ones can actually be splitted. You are likely to split it into equal quantity. But for those which are not being coated with lines, it's not advisable you break them because the tendency for you to split it into almost equal is not there. So you may take a higher dose during this time of intake and a lesser dose in the other.
Okay. All right. So
it's best you get the required prescription. That's the best. Otherwise, those that can be divided, you find them with coated lines, and that is applicable.
Okay. Well, so just like the doctor said, sometimes we want to divide, we don't divide it well. Bottom line, look for the exact medicine that doctor said you should buy. Now, we've already started having contributions coming in. Of course, please feel free to send us your text messages on the number 0907270370. Before we go to the phone lines, though, we already have text messages, and we have another one here. This one says they would like for you to clarify that if you take a combination of more than one different type of drug, that is, for instance, you're taking paracetamol, anti-malaria drugs, blah, 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 taking all of them at once, they say that it can form a chemical that will affect the body adversely, that you're supposed to take the three different type of drugs or the whatever drugs you're taking, that you're supposed to give it separate intervals, say like 5 or 10 minutes intervals. So do you swallow your drugs at once? Say, for instance, you're taking an anti-malaria, you're taking paracetamol, you're taking an antibiotic for typhoid, for instance. Can you just take everything at once and swallow it and be done with, or does it have a negative effect?
Okay, that question is quite good. There are drugs that we call that are synergistic. Synergetic in that the presence of one drug enhances the activity of the other. Those drugs have no problem taking them together. There are drugs that when you take them, they will actually be prescribed at intervals of time. I'll give you a typical example of anti-malaria and vitamin C. We always encourage that when you're taking anti-malaria, stop vitamin C. The reason is because...
Oh, really?
Yeah, the reason because they are what we call free radicals. Free radicals can be the vitamin C taken alongside with anti-malaria could actually make you have some free radicals, which could actually be toxins to the body. So you suspend, and then anti-malaria take the course of 3 days, a short time, and you can take your vitamin C for almost a week or two. So those drugs that are synergistic, you take them together. Those ones that are antagonistic, it will be prescribed that you take them at different intervals. Analgesics and antibiotics, you can take them, you can swallow them at the same time. There are no instances where you give 10 minutes because they will all be in the stomach and they will all reach the guts almost the same time. Digestion starts from the mouth down to until when it exits the body through either the kidneys or the anus. So, but when you take at the interval of 10 minutes, there's nothing big different. They will all meet there, they will be digested and the absorption will still go on. But a drug that are antagonistic, even when you take them, you actually feel the difference because you either don't get the pain relief entirely or you get the pain relief with other problems, sweating and others, some vomit immediately because those are antagonistic drugs. You can't combine them. So when a drug is known not to actually be synergistic, you will be advised at different times of taking. There are drugs we advise, take them in the morning only. Take them with empty stomach. Take them only when you have eaten. So there are reasons why you have to take drugs at such intervals. But any drug that is free to take, you can take them at the same time. Sometimes for conveniency, our throat, the narrow is can be narrowed and may not take some big tablets at the same time. So you can swallow them at intervals of time, but that doesn't really matter.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter much.
Well, thank you. Well, just now I just learned that you do not take vitamin C with anti-malaria. That's a new one for me. I didn't even know that. So you see why it's good to always tune into your Health 360. Time for us to get to hear from you this evening. I hope, Angobali, you were satisfied with that answer. Time for us to take your calls now, and the numbers are 081 40,000 989 and 0708 800 989. The lines are buzzing already. Let's go take this one. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
You're welcome. Your question quickly.
Yeah, it's Engineer Mohammed Falolubelo. I'm calling from Tidumwara, Kaduna.
Engineer, you're welcome. Great to hear from
good
you.
evening, Doctor.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, please, I have some problems to just ask you about the medicine, especially that we are using, especially in this country, Nigeria.
Okay.
Sometimes when we go to the pharmacy, just a chemist to buy a medicine, they will tell you different types of medicine. Some just like paracetamol, they will call you there is a bicham, there are different types of paracetamol, especially.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes they will call you one is Germany or Britain or India.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know how can you differentiate the other counterfeit drugs, because there were a lot of counterfeit in the market nowadays. So how can you differentiate the good medicine?
Okay,
Because
sir.
some time one pharmacy that I actually told me that a lot of medicines, they are not good,
Are fake,
but
yeah.
I do not sell in the market nowadays. So how can I differentiate to know the good medicine, to buy, especially when I have some problems?
Okay.
And the second question, there's one question that arises. I went to an hospital. They gave me just about 7 different tablets to take at once. So maybe you just give an answer for this question. So because there is a one antagonist and you say and the other one
synergetic, yeah. Synergetic,
so I just heard about it. There is no effect for it. So have a nice day.
All right.
And thank you, Engineer Falalu.
Yeah.
Great to hear from you. Taking 7 tablets at the same time, and then what brands? How do you know if a drug is good or not?
Okay, let me start with how to identify a good or maybe a fake drug from an original one. It may be difficult for you from a consumer point of view, but we have a governing body that actually take a look of every company. They always cross-check each company producing a particular drug. That drug will go through test and trial to be certified fit for patient usage. But nevertheless, you will still find some people bringing up counterfeit drugs. Please, I will advise first, wait for that drug to be prescribed. Secondly, go to a recognized registered pharmacy, because registered pharmacy should be able to get drugs that are approved only by NAFDAC. We also have NLDA, we have NAFDAC. Those are bodies that check our drugs quality, because I as a doctor can buy a drug and I will consume it and it's fake. It may have the label, it may have an expiry date, it may even have a NAFDAC registration number. But it is good that when you're buying a drug, go to a recognized registered pharmacy store where you have a qualified trained pharmacy who knows how to get drug directly from a registered company that actually have an effective drug, a drug that is original.
There are a lot of people calling you doc.
Yes,
a lot of calls. Let me quickly take this one.
All right.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Jacqueline.
You're welcome.
And I also greet the doctor.
Good evening, sir.
Comrade Gabriel.
My name is Comrade Gabriel, yeah.
Okay,
You're welcome.
So
We don't have
before
time,
even
so
the
just go quickly to your question.
Yeah. Okay, I said before even when the doctor came, in fact, he said something that I have been doing. Because for some time, it is almost 6 months, I was only taking water, I never take drug at all. Then secondly, he also talked about how we're supposed to be using these drugs. I think finally we are very happy because the instruction of the doctor has put many of us into light.
Okay.
And then the doctor also I have to congratulate the doctor because we have been crying that the doctor should not go on strike. The government should talk to them. So we thank God the doctor is here in the studio. May the Almighty God bless him for all he has said. In Jesus' name.
Amen, sir. Thank
Amen.
you.
Thank you. All right. So quickly, let's take another call. Thank you, Engineer Gabriel. Hello. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, you're welcome. Your question,
My name
please.
is calling from Sabo. I want to ask doctor. I've been having malaria and typhoid. Every month I visit hospital. I always be tested malaria and typhoid. What will I do to stop this malaria and typhoid? I'm tired of it.
Okay. I understand the frustration. All right. So thank you for your question.
Welcome.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get another call and then, doctor. Okay, we have one more call. I just wanted to squeeze one more in. Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening, doctor.
Yes. You're welcome.
Yeah. Is engineer just calling back? I just like to ask you about this coronavirus vaccine.
Okay.
So, a lot of people they are not, have some problems with the side effect of the AstraZeneca, vaccine.
Yes.
And the federal government says just about 3 days ago that it tried to make a suggestion to buy some Johnson
and Johnson.
Yes,
about 30
so
million.
even
vaccines.
the Kaduna State governor, especially the governor.
All right, we apologize. Had some.
1, 2, music, more music, right here, all the hits. 98.9 Victor FM.
This radio Invicta, my radio, victorious. Now we be the best radio. Best.
We apologize for that. Just found ourselves going off air. But, someone was asking, just so that we don't forget, the person who talked about consistent malaria and typhoid, she's tired. And what can she do about this? And then, of course, the person who was asking about the AstraZeneca that we had before the vaccines, and now government is has taken delivery of another brand. Yes,
Okay,
Dr. Godwin.
Yeah, there's another question I will still refer back to, like someone who asked, I think it's the same engineer who said he have to take 7 tablets at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, please, if those tablets are prescribed by your doctor without any caution to tell you that it's wrong to take this and this at the same time, please, you can take them. The only challenge is the convenience of swallowing. Yeah, you could take, let me just give an example. Paracetamol, 1 tablet is 500 milligram, another one is 500 milligram. Imagine you're required to take 1 gram. That means 2 tablets. You could be asked to take flagyl. Flagyl is 200 milligram, another 200 milligram, making 400. That is another 4 tablets. So at the end, you may be taking based on the strength, but with various number to reach that strength. You understand me? So it can be the same drug, but you're taking the quantity to give you the required strength. Or it can be separate drugs because of the problems you have around. But it's because those drugs can be taken at the same time. That's why there is no caution. But those with caution, you will actually be advised on when to take this and when you take the other. Now back on the caller from Sabo who complained about having malaria and typhoid all the time. Now please, we may not dispute the ailment you're having, but there could be other problems around you having malaria and typhoid. What causes malaria? Mosquito bite. How is your drainages? Do you use mosquito net? Do you want to take anti-malaria today, go back and sleep without mosquito net and still not have malaria in the next 6 months? So you could try to prevent those other happenings. Typhoid, how is your hygiene? Because when you have poor hygiene, you likely have recurrent typhoid fever, and typhoid is dangerous actually. So you could think of the preventive measures. Secondly, you could actually seek a higher care, because it could go beyond just typhoid and malaria, because most of those symptoms, they also cut across other disease conditions. So seek further care. Maybe you go to the specialist area where you can be checked properly to find out if actually it's just typhoid or malaria. So you either deal with it in the specialist care, or you go back and institute a preventive measure, especially use of mosquito net, keeping your drainages clean, and then having good hygiene in your kitchen, your plate, wherever. You need good hygiene to stay away from typhoid and malaria. If that is not done, you cannot avoid having typhoid and malaria. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly, Doc, we've run out of time, but
back to our vaccine.
Yes.
All those drugs, they bought the AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and whichever, they all are effective, just that they have different degree of effectivity. Like in terms of AstraZeneca, that was said to have 60% or 66% coverage. You may need to take it twice or 3 times to achieve the desired preventive state. But there is none among them, no vaccine doesn't have a side effect. And when they say side effect, please let the public know that when they say side effect, headache, it's not that everyone who takes Johnson & Johnson will have headache. When they say Johnson & Johnson doesn't have any side effect, it doesn't mean that all those who will take will not have experienced one effect or the other, one side effect or the other. Even pain is a side effect, because some of them will have pain from the site of injection for some days. So please, there are no vaccines without side effect. They varies among people. And if you look at it, if you look at those who have died from COVID-19 and looking that you have to just deal with the side effect of fever for a week and it's over, is it not better to take and have the side effect of fever and stay alive than to die of COVID and your story is closed? So let's take the vaccine. It's for our good. Let's bear with the side effect. Even our common paracetamol could also have its own side effect. Anti-malaria could also have theirs, because some takes and vomit. So they all have their side effect, but not everyone experiences that, and not everyone will stay without it, without the side effect. So let's be cautious. Everyone can experience that, and most people may not.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Dr. Godwin Abraka. Before we go, I would like to quickly acknowledge Baranzan James Philip. Thank you so much. Your words mean a lot. Kester Daniels, thank you so much. It is because of you that we're here. Alip Karaski, good evening to you too. Batsa George Amos, thank you so much. We're glad that you're learning from this program. And Mubarak Jibril Malam Himma, thank you so much. I appreciate your words a lot. Thank you so much. And a bigger thanks to Dr. Godwin Abraka, who through the rain and after saving lives still made his time to come to the studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, ma.
Until next week, when we hope to come your way again on Your Health 360. Your health matters a lot, and that is why you should handle everything that pertains to your health with care. I hope you take all the lessons away from here and use it. Remain victorious.